having a rap label is a lot like having an NBA team. There's only so many spots. You always need new talent. You need someone with a vision. You need to be able to push someone in something. In the 90s, when Puffy had Bad Boy Records, obviously the focal point was Biggie Smalls, and then around that was Craig Mack and Total. Also, Faith Evans, and then later on, Craig Mack is phased out for whatever reason. That's another video for another day. But the focal point remained Biggie Smalls, and then you brought in Mace and the Lox, and Puffy becomes an artist, and so on and so forth. In 97, Biggie Smalls meets his demise. Puffy now is an artist. He's getting his major label push. And now pretty much Puffy and Mace are the top two artists. They have the Lox. The Lox are building up their album for 98. You still have Total. You have Black Rob, who had been there for years on the back burner. Black Rob is, he appears on the No Way Out album, I Love You Baby. Classic record. And then, he's going to get his major release in 2 years, which is 99. So, when your star player, Biggie Smalls, is gone, Puff Daddy, he now wants to be a star. This was always a problem with Puffy. At some point, he wanted to be the star. And he planted those seeds from the beginning. That's why he's in the videos, on the records, shaking his ass. Hit the like button, share this video, subscribe to this channel if you're not. Tell people you know to subscribe to this channel. He always wanted to be a star. Puffy, he was rapping. He rapped before Ready to Die dropped. He was on that record with what was it, Mad Lion, I believe? Him, Biggie, I think Mad Lion. He sounded terrible, and he was trying to rap like Onyx, but it was terrible. Good Lord. But he always wanted to be in the spotlight. And around the time when they were building up Ready to Die in 94, Puffy was in conversations to manage LL Cool J. But LL, and I like LL Cool J as much as the next guy, but LL Cool J is another one. He has to have the spotlight, but he's LL Cool J, damn it. So LL Cool J in his, he had the ability to see this guy Puffy. He probably could be a good manager. He does have connections, but me and him are going to be fighting for the spotlight, and that's going to be a detriment. So that's why LL never allowed Puffy to manage him. Now, he wasn't going to sign to Bad Boy Records, but Puffy almost became his manager. So LL knew that. Suge Knight obviously knew that. He made that infamous statement at the Source Awards. So when you go to 98, 99, Mace was on fire, and then he wants to get out of rap. So at this time, when you get to 1999, Biggie Smalls is gone. So that means Junior Mafia, Little Kim, they're elsewhere. They're on Atlantic Records. And now Puffy has to reload his roster. At this time, the Lox, they want to leave. The Lox leaves. So when you get to 99, it's basically Puffy and Black Rob. He got Carl Thomas. He got Donnell Jones. But that's his R&B roster. You need to reinforce your rap roster. So he meets Shine. He gets G-Dep. And Black Rob is going to be pushed more to the top now. So Puffy's big three for the rap side of Bad Boy going into the new millennium was going to be Shine, G-Dep, and Black Rob. Now in 99, once again, Puffy has to be a star. So Puffy's second album, Forever, comes out. It got the sales, but it got very negative reviews. It was kind of all over the place. It had too many features. No Way Out was a classic album. It was tremendously, put together. The track listing flowed together. You had the big records. You had introspective records. You know, you have Biggie on it, you have the Locks on it, you have Mace on it, you have all this talent. It's not going to fail. But then he copied the same formula of let's have a bunch of people on it, but he went and got like Redman and he got like I think Busy Bone. Like it was just not a good album. There's some records on it like Public Enemy 2000, you know, Journey Through the Life, which is my favorite Puffy song. That song had Little Kim on it and a young Beanie Siegel and Nas was on it. Tremendous song. To me, it's the best Puffy song ever, Journey Through the Life. But the album was just not good. Most people don't even remember it. I think it did go like triple platinum. It had Satisfy You with R. Kelly. I always hated that song. You know, they sampled I Got Five on it. And that was a big complaint of people with Puffy and even Kanye West and even Puffy's son, King Combs. They sampled too blatantly. And what that means is it's not so much that they sample is the problem. They sample popular songs. And they don't do it in a clever way. They do it in it's right in your face way. And this is also the problem with being a performer and being an MC. When you're an MC, your lyrics can overtake, you know, a weak beat can be, you can recover from having a weak production if you have great lyrics. Puffy's not an MC. Even if he has Jadakiss or Biggie writing his lyrics, he's still not an MC. So it's not going to come off as well as if they said it in the microphone. So these are some problems with Puffy, but whatever. But he has 3 new people to write for him, and that's Shine, G-Dep, and Black Rob. So when you get into 99, Black Rob finally gets his own album. And Black Rob, from what I understand, he was at Bad Boy since the beginning, 93, 94. He was there. He was just always in the background. So by 99, he gets Life Story. That album, I believe that album did go platinum. You had the monster song, Whoa, classic song. You know, you had, that was a good album. That whole album was a good album. Black Rob was nice. Oh my, you talk about underrated. Black Rob was he got to be top 25 most underrated rappers ever. Good album. And in that same time, he has Shine. Now, Shine was from Brooklyn, and he obviously grew up, you know, listening to Biggie Smalls and the whole Bad Boy era, all those type things. So he gets to Bad Boy, and this is also a problem with Puffy, and this is also a problem with corporate people. A lot of times corporate people, they lack creativity. They lack a vision. Now, Puffy is someone who had a vision, but even he at times could fall into what I just said. Meaning, a lot of corporate people, they're very formulaic. Meaning, they only want to do something they already did. They only want to do something they already seen. So, when it came to Shine, and this is something that Puffy and Suge Knight shared at this same period. Biggie's gone, 2Pac is gone. And I don't think people ever really put this together, but this happened at the same time, meaning sometimes when something's very successful, people just want to clone it. People just want to copy it, which never really works. It never really does. So when Biggie's gone, Puffy's thing is, I need a new Biggie. Meaning I need someone who sounds like him, someone who raps like him. And Puffy, he kind of always looked for that same type of rapper as far as Biggie, Mace. They always had like a simple flow. It's that simple, you could easily rap along with them. You can easily follow it, flow, that simple cadence. He always looked for rappers who could do that for him. E-Ness, you know, Red Cafe. They could write that simple pattern for him. But so he wanted that. But then he also wanted, I need a Biggie. I need a Biggie. So literally they get Shine and pretty much they make Shine rap like Biggie. Shine did an interview with Elliot Wilson stinking ass. And Shine basically said they kind of hinted at him to have a Biggie flow and Biggie cadence to the point where he was literally sounding like him with the muffled voice. Now, some people to this day, they don't like Shine simply because of that. Other people, they disregard that. And personally, Shine, he's one of my favorite rappers in the last 20, 25 years. He was nice. He was another one. He was nice. The one thing about Puff Daddy, it don't matter if you like him or dislike him, he knows talent. He knows how to pick talent. And he knows how to pick real MCs. He always has. He always has. Shine was nice. He had fire records. So in '99, when Black Rob has Whoa, Shine had Bad Boys. They had monster records. So this was the new era of Bad Boy and the new push, and it was working. It wasn't as big. They weren't gonna go. They weren't going triple platinum or 5 times platinum, but they went platinum and it was working. They were dropping things that were platinum and gold. Now at the same time, Junior Mafia and Little Kim were gone as far as Bad Boy, as far as being around Bad Boy. They were never signed, but being around in that whole camp. But Junior Mafia took great offense to Shine, and there were certain incidents that happened, and certain people had to step in on Shine's behalf because Junior Mafia took it very personal that they thought he was biting Biggie. They didn't realize he was basically being forced to do that. Then in '99, you get the infamous club shooting. I don't want to get into that, but things popped off, money got thrown in the air, shots went, and there were innocent bystanders who got clapped in the face. This is planting a seed for the demise of the new era of Bad Boy Records. Basically, this leads to Shine being in prison for what, 10, 12 years, and he gets out around 2012, I believe. And then somehow he gets out, and that leads Shine into becoming a small hat who is having a beef with Game, the fake Rick Ross, and Kendrick Duckworth. Whatever. Whatever. Good Lord. Hit the like button. Share this video. Subscribe to this channel. If you want to support the channel, if you enjoy my content, you can donate to Cash App. It's XDN Online. The link is in the description of this video. So basically, that seed is planted. Now also, the seed is planted for Black Rob's demise in the music business and literally his life. Because at that time, in that 98, 99, Black Rob is finally getting what all artists want. You're getting a major label push. You're getting attention. Finally, your album's coming out. And Black Rob was someone who was known at that time whenever he was at a show, whenever he was at a studio, whatever, he always had a bottle of Hennessy. He wasn't a casual drinker. He was a heavy drinker. Now, the way adults act, and I said this before, the way adults act or lack thereof is based on childhood experience. Black Rob had a very rough upbringing. He did a great interview. The best interview probably he ever did was on Combat Jack. You could look it up. It might be on YouTube, I'm not sure. But you could look it up, Google it, Combat Jack Show, Black Rob, and just listen to his life story, which was the title of his debut album. Black Rob had a treacherous upbringing. One of my favorite lyrics is from I Love You Baby when he said, "It's all about the Benjamins, true, that be the motto. Ran out of ammo, started throwing bottles." Oh my God. And I believe that was like a true lyric. He had a treacherous life. Rap pretty much saved him. Maybe. And so I think that, his upbringing probably planted a seed for his drinking problem, which he would adopt. So he always had Hennessy from people who were around him, and he always had to drink the whole bottle. He wasn't going to share it. He wasn't going to pour you nothing. It was his bottle. You had to get your own. So he was planting the seed to have a serious drinking problem, and that's what really hurt him in the long run, and he met his demise. Rest the soul of Black Rob. Now, G-Dep. G-Dep was another person. He came up on the underground of New York, and he kind of quickly ascended to get to Bad Boy Records. He had some underground records with he had this classic record with DJ Premier. Oh my God, what was it called? I think it was called Over the Wheels or something like that. It's some classic record. I think he had in like '96 with Premier, and I think that record and a few other records helped him get the attention of Bad Boy. So G-Dep gets there, and He gets his major push. They have Let's Get It. They have Special Delivery, just classic. And Special Delivery is funny because the remix, Craig Mack pops out of nowhere wearing this leather shaft jacket. So, okay, I guess Puffy brought him back for 3 minutes or however long his verse was, 47 seconds, whatever. And once again, G-Dep, he makes a splash. He's on the scene. And he wasn't a major name, but he was a known name at that time, 2001, 2002. And then at that same time, Puffy does his third album, and the saga continues. And also a person at that time, I said a big three, but I guess you could add this person into it, which was Mark Curry. Mark Curry, another nice MC. But Mark Curry is also someone who did something that a lot of Puffy artists did not do. He realized something is not right here. Paperwork, the environment, the way Sean Combs talked and treated people. So he got up out of there when a lot of people either just were swamped, trapped, or fell off there. So Mark Curry gets out. He does his book, Dancing with the Devil. And he was someone, he ghost wrote for Puffy. You know, he was on Black Rob's album. Another one of the great Black Rob songs was Muscle Game. Oh, on that record, Puffy should be arrested and investigated for what he was saying on that record. Black Rob on his first album has a song called Muscle Game. Puffy is talking about, for some reason, like in between the verses, Puffy's talking about wiping out your social security and he'll drop a bag on your head. And like, it sounded like he was talking about Suge Knight. He probably was. But he was saying some funny stuff on that. Go listen to that. Or Black Rob Muscle Game. Listen for Puffy's part. Fire song. K. Slay loved that song. Another one, Rest His Soul. K. Slay. He was one of them tender dicks. Pause. But if you know, you know. But G-Dep, he has his major label debut. Child of the Ghetto. Classic album. That's one of my favorite albums ever. That album is a strong 4.5 mics. Strong 4.5. Great album. So Puffy had the right talent. They all put out great debut albums, but Shine, the club incident, Black Rob, he's starting to have personal issues because of his drinking. And then G-Dep, eventually he confesses to a body. So that whole new era crumbled. Plus, Puffy, once again, he has these new talents, but he wants to be in the spotlight. Then you have, you have the Making the Band era, and then that kind of took attention from everything else too. And then the band, they went gold. It was a great TV show. But then Puffy gets fed up with them, and he drops the whole group except for Enes and Babs. But then Babs, nothing comes out, and then Enes recorded a good album with Ninth Wonder, a good mixtape rather, but that kind of went nowhere. And then Enes was his ghostwriter, and then Enes left, and then he goes back to battle rap. So then when you get into the 2000s and into the 2000 teens, or whatever they're called, 2010s, Bad Boy Records, they kind of have nothing. They get Machine Gun Kelly, they get Red Cafe, they have Cassie, and then half her head is shaved. And then, you fast forward to Danity Kane and things like that. Day 26, they went gold, but Puffy is like 50 Cent and Jay-Z. They're so obsessed with sales and perception that if it's not going right, they'll just drop you and abandon you, and it's your fault, it's not their fault. So Bad Boy Records gets to a point where it's kind of like dead, it has no meaning. And then to present day as we speak, you have King Combs, who I guess he's on Bad Boy, or he's acting like he's on Bad Boy, or I don't know. Does Puffy have his sons publishing too? But the big three, which is the point of this video, they could have been a great foundation for Bad Boy into the 2000s and 2010 and so on. But personal issues, and Puffy always wanting the spotlight, and Puffy not having any patience, and Puffy switching up the lawyers on Shine, destroyed that. So that's the demise of Bad Boy Records. Now let me back up, because I did mention earlier that I did mention, and forgive me for this one, I did mention Death Row and Bad Boy, Suge and Puffy kind of went to the same thing at the same time. after Tupac and Biggie's demise, I mentioned how basically Puffy made Shine somewhat of a Biggie clone. And at the same time, on Death Row, Suge Knight was like, we need a new Tupac. We need a new Tupac. And he went to the Outlaws when Tupac passed and said, which one of you is going to take his position? Which is a crazy question. And the answer was none of them. And they told him, we can't fill his spot. It's Tupac Shakur. So what Suge did at the same time when Puffy's getting Shine, Suge has an artist named The Realist. Oh my God. The Realist. I'm not even gonna say look him up. Just don't. Oh, you probably will now. Damn. Hit the like button. The Realist was an artist who I believe he was from, I think he was from Texas or Louisiana. He's somewhere down south. And he got to Death Row Records in, I believe, 96. And he was actually there when Tupac was alive. They actually did know each other. Not like friends, but they knew each other as far as they're both there. The Realist was a Southern artist who moved to California, and he was a big Tupac fan. To the point where he literally had the bald head, the goatee. He would dress like him. He got tattoos like him. He tried to sound like him and rap like him. He was a cloned ripoff of Tupac Shakur. And when Tupac passed, they used the Realist as, well, basically, you're going to be the new Tupac. This obviously did not work. This failed. It was rejected. Also, at the same time, Suge Knight's in prison. Snoop Dogg's on No Limit. Half the label's gone, in jail, whatever. So this was not going to work. At the same time, they had a fake Snoop Dogg. Oh, God. I think his name was Top Dog. Oh, God. So they had a fake Tupac named The Realist, a fake Snoop Dogg named Top Dog. This was just a disaster. They went and put out the Chronic 2000 because they thought they were going to sabotage Dr. Dre's album, which that did not work. And I never liked The Realist. To me, it's just disgusting. Like, you're a clone of somebody else. You're a blatant ripoff of somebody else. It was just disgusting. I don't even like thinking about this person. But to be fair, maybe it was Death Row making him do that. The same way Puffy wanted Shine to basically be Biggie. The same way, I mentioned this too, Loon. A part of that new bad boy, Loon, was supposed to be the new Mace. And Loon has interviews saying basically they wanted him to be Mace. They want him to rap in that tone, and he damn near had the same shape up, everything. And obviously Loon, he knew Mace, they were in Harlem World. But basically, Puffy tried to make Biggie and Mace, reinvent them with Loon and Shine, and it didn't work how he wanted, but whatever. And then, so one label, you're copying two artists, and Death Row, let's have a new Snoop, new Tupac. It didn't work. Why would it work? It's damn near an industry plant. Also, many people do not know this, and this is even more sickening. Death Row, when Reggie Wright was in charge, or whatever, allegedly, he used The Realist. And what he would do is they would take Tupac songs and they would mute some of the lyrics and then have The Realist rap Tupac's lyrics. So some of those Tupac songs that came out after he passed away, that wasn't his voice. That was The Realist voice. And they tuned it and altered it so it sounded like Tupac, which is just disgusting. Why would you do that? Reggie Wright would say, oh, well, we had to make clean radio versions, so we used The Realist to fill in Tupac vocals. Why? Why not just mute the words? You can put a sound effect like Wu-Tang would do. But this is the music industry. They'll clone you and act like, the fans are so stupid, it won't matter. Oh, they'll never figure this out. Well, they did. Some of them do. And with that said, I'm up out of here. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and that is it.